I'd say, you know, as you're walking down the street and you see a prostitute, and you think, oh, there's a prostitute walking down the street. I'm here to tell my story so that you will see the story of that girl. Because most of our stories are pretty similar. Yeah, there's all kinds of differences, but the core levels are pretty similar. I believe that through understanding, compassion grows. So I'm hoping tonight, through my story, you will have a better understanding and your compassion will grow, and maybe we can do something about this problem. So I'd say the first, issue that most girls have is self-esteem. I had a low self-esteem to begin with. My older brother, he was 2 years older than me, and he was a little bit of a bully. Dysfunctional family. My parents divorced when I was 8 years old. So when a stepfather came into the picture and started molesting me, I didn't really know, I didn't even have the words to say what was happening. I just kind of hid within myself. And that was when I was 11. So at the age of 15, when I first met Greg, who was 16 years old. So we're not talking about some older man. We're talking about a 15-year-old girl and a 16-year-old boy at a little party at the poolside. And he had charisma and charm, and he looked at me. And honestly, for the first time, I think I felt like I was seen. And it just felt really good to be somebody. Well, and if you ask me now, was he a pimp at that time? I don't know. I look back, I've tried to figure it out. Was he becoming a pimp? Did he know about pimping? When? Because the entire time that I was with him, I thought he was my boyfriend, he was my husband, he's the father of my children, he's my savior. So he came up with a plan after, first, by the time I was 16, I was pregnant with his baby. So right after I turned 17, I had my daughter Latasha, and he came up with this wonderful plan of how we could live happily ever after. All you have to do is you have to get away from your mom. Your mom, remember, I was still living up with my mom. My mom's buying all the diapers. My mom's buying all the formula. He needs me to get away from her. He wants, to be able to have control over me. And so he dangles that little carrot in front of me going, we can live happily ever after. We can be a real husband and wife. You just have to get out of your mom's house. So he came up with this plan, and he sent me and Latasha to a shelter downtown Seattle. Roaches, just bums scattered all over the sidewalks. We were scared. And he didn't stay there with us, though. It was for, women and children only. I think he was staying at a relative's house. And after I'd been there for about a week, I called them up and said, well, Latasha's out of diapers, she's out of formula. What are we gonna do? You have to realize, I came from my mom. When you're a teenager, your world is pretty small still. I don't even know I don't realize that the shelter, if I probably went to the shelter people and told them I'm out of diapers and formula, they would have given it to me. I didn't know. So I called Greg, who's supposed to be my savior. Tasha needs diapers, Tasha needs formula. And he says, well, I know how you can make some money. I'm like, really? Okay. And my thought process is, okay, we're gonna go clean somebody's house, or he's got, a job at McDonald's or something, well, who's gonna watch Latasha while I'm working? This is my only, the mindset. And he goes, okay, just meet me up on Yesler. Meet me up there like in 10 minutes. So I packed up Latasha with her wet diaper and no formula, and we went walking up to Yesler. And he takes Latasha from me, and Tasha was only about 2 to 3 months old. And he goes, all you have to do is walk down the street. A man's gonna pick you up. He's gonna give you $30 to have sex with him. You have sex with him and you come back here, you got Tasha's diapers and formula. what? I'm like, huh? He says, don't you love your daughter? Well, yeah, I love her, but what are you talking about? I can't walk up the street and have sex with somebody. It's like, if you loved your daughter, you would. And I'm just sitting there in total shock, and I don't know what to think. And, you know, I mean, who on earth, prostitution, it's real? At that point, I didn't even really realize that it was real. And, you know, he kept at me, you know, just, do you love her? She needs diapers, she needs formula, she's counting on you. I remember I went walking up the street. I'm like, who on earth would possibly pick me up? I have no makeup on. I have jeans and a t-shirt. I don't even think I combed my hair that day. Who on earth would mistake me for a prostitute? But within just a couple of feet, guy pulled over. I remember even looking behind me because he must be pulling over for somebody else because he's not pulling over for me, but there was nobody behind me. And I got into his car. I did what Greg told me to do. When the man dropped me off, and I had my little $30, and I handed it to Greg, I just started throwing up. There was nothing in my stomach, but I sat there and just heaved and heaved and heaved, and the only way that I can explain it is that I threw up my soul that day. Because when it was all done, there was a part of me that was gone. There was a part of me that was so horrible and bad and just a total disconnect. But you know what? Greg was there to tell me he loves me and how proud he was of me. And all of a sudden, I felt seen again. I felt like I existed to him. A week later, no diapers, no formula, so again, we'll go do this. Didn't take as much harassing, took some pushing. Then soon it was, we needed this, we needed that. You know, if we're gonna get into our own apartment, you know, you need to do this. You know, if I was a girl, I would do it. And all of a sudden he starts bringing these other girls around. There's these other girls that are going out working for him and making money for him. And when I don't go out and make money and he brings home a bag of diapers, well, what kind of woman are you that you let these other girls go out and take care of your children? You know, I hear stories about pimps all the time, and I wonder, where were they trained? Because it is so the same. They sit up there, they beat you down to nothing. They find out what is worse for you. What is your worst nightmare? You know, because each person is different. My nightmare was something different than the other girls. You know, me being a terrible mother. And so he'd use that to control me. So years went on like this. You know, we would apartment to apartment till we get kicked out because too many girls running in and out, hotel room to hotel room till we were kicked out because we were being beat. Girls would come, girls would go, some would stay. I always stayed. I had his children. His threats against me were against my mom. If you leave me, I will find your mom. I will kill her. If you leave me, I will set your mom's house on fire. Through that fear, you stay. About 3 years later, I had another child with him. So here now I have 2 kids for him to use and manipulate me with. And life continued on like this, working the street, working escort services. You know, and some people want to sit up here and go, well, that was a choice. That was a choice. At that point, I think when a pimp or when a person beats you down to the point where you don't even feel human anymore. There are no choices. You know, you also realize that in that life, common sense does not exist. And right and wrong is very blurred. I remember one time, another aspect is he got us all hooked on crack cocaine. And I remember one time, he would pick a girl to beat for a couple of days, to just torture, to sit there and ask questions, and just, it was horrific. And I remember one time it was my turn, and I had been up for like 3 days straight, smoking crack, getting beat, being questioned. I mean, just the stupidest, weirdest questions, but it's the way they can break you down. And he goes, "Are you ever gonna leave me?" I'm like, "No, I promise I'll never leave you." And he went and he got an empty beer bottle, one of those 40-ounce Old English bottles, started hit me with it. I'm like, "No, Greg, no, I'll never leave you. I promise I'll never, ever, ever leave you." And this went on for a little while. And he goes, "Swear to God on your son's life that you'll never leave me." And at that point, I couldn't even imagine leaving him. I could never imagine why. The world doesn't want me. He's already convinced me that I'm nothing. You know, every single time that I do encounter somebody from the outside world, usually it's police officers, and usually they reinforce what he's already told me. Get off our streets. We don't want you here. Get out of our town. Very degrading. So I really didn't think I'd ever leave him, and I swear to God on my son's life. Well, that wasn't good enough for him. There was one Bible in our house, and that Bible was only used for one thing. And he went and he got the Bible, and he presented it to me. "Put your hand on the Bible and swear to God that if you ever leave me, may your son Gregory die a horrible, painful death." And with that 40-ounce Old English bottle just getting ready to hit me, I placed my hand on the Bible and I swore. I swear to God, I will never leave you, Greg. May my son Gregory die a horrible, painful death if I ever leave you. And I mentioned about the police officers that, you know, they'd always reinforce what Greg told us. There was one police officer one time. I was out working, and a car pulled up behind me, which always means it's the police. Johns or Tricks, they always pull up ahead or on the side. Police car comes up behind me. I already know what's going on. I know I'm going to be told to get out of his area. I would have to go move down a couple of miles. And he walks up to me and he says, "I already know what you're doing out here, so I'm not even going to ask you that question. I'm not going to put you in the position to have to lie to me." And I was just, huh? What do you mean he already knows what I'm doing out here? And he goes, "I do have one question for you, and I'd really like it if you tell me the truth." He said, "Are you okay?" I think by this time I was about 25 years old, and nobody had ever asked me that. And I didn't know how to answer. What is okay? I don't know. I stood there quiet, and he said, "Listen, girls are being killed out here. There is a serial killer. We are trying to locate him. We found a body last night. We've seen it, I don't know, there's a couple bodies or something." He says, "It's not safe for you to be out here." He goes, will you please, do you have a way to go home tonight? Can you go home and not be out here? He goes, we're doing our best to get this guy, but I don't want to see you dead. And it just totally freaked me out. I was like, oh. He goes, how did you get out here? And I was like, my car. I drove my car. He goes, where's your car parked? I said, at the Walmart, or it was Kmart parking lot. And he goes, get in my car, I'll drive you there. At that point, I was like, oh, he's just gonna take me to jail now. You know, he's just trying to get me into his car without a hassle. So I got into the backseat of his police car, and he drove me, and I thought he was gonna turn right the way to the police station, but instead he turned left into the Kmart parking lot. Of course, my car, he said, which car is yours? And I was like, the blue one next to the street. No, it's not. Yeah. I don't know, I wasn't thinking, you know, but nowhere close to the store. So he drives up, and he goes, just stay off the street as long as you can, please. I said, okay. So I went home to Greg, and I fabricated the story just a little bit. Told him that, you know, the police threatened me that if I came out there again, they're gonna throw me in jail, they're gonna take my kids away from me. I can't go out there, there's a murderer. And he let me have, because that was my working area, the other girls had other working areas. I mean, each girl had her own little expertise. He was like, okay, I'll let you off for a week. Then a week went by, and all of a sudden the torture's starting to happen again, and basically he wants his money, and as long as I'm at home, he's gonna torture me until I go out and make the money. So I went back out there, I parked my car at the Kmart, same spot, went walking up the street, and a car pulls up behind me. I'm like, oh, great. I turn around, and I see that it's the same guy. And my heart kind of, it fluttered for a moment. It felt alive for a minute. I knew that he wasn't gonna take me to jail, and it was just, God, he was nice to me. And he came walking up to me, and I wanted him to know I had stayed away for 2 whole weeks. I stayed away for as long as I can. I was not disrespecting him. So automatically I went in and I said, you know, I have not been out here for 2 whole weeks. And he goes, oh, I know. I look for your car every night. That's how I knew you were out here tonight. And then he said, Wendy, it's still not safe out here. He had actually remembered my name. I told him there's no way, I have to go out, I have to make money. He just says, will you please be really, really careful? And he handed me his card, said, if you ever need anything, call me. As he drove away, I ripped up the card. Because if Greg ever knew about this, he would surely kill me. So years went by. Nobody came to rescue me. Nobody cared. I was the prostitute. So here I'm 29 years old. Girls come, girls go, some stay. He had just gotten a new batch of girls. Some of them as young as 14 years old. Remember those lines that I told you about, right and wrong being very blurred? Greg would tell us, go make money. I would drive the car with 14-year-old girls in my car to go turn tricks together. Did I comprehend that this is wrong? No. To us, we were one hoe for Greg. We were Greg's prostitute. How much money we made in a night defined how much we were worth for the day. So one day, I just happened, I was making macaroni and cheese. We had just moved into another house, and I remember looking out the window, and the entire SWAT team is running towards us. Now you have to realize Greg had trained each and every one of us how to protect him. You protect him no matter what. You throw your life down and you get him out. You go tell him, you get him out of the house if the police are ever coming after him. But something, even though they had, the masks, that the SWAT teams wear, I could see, as I looked down, I could see his eyes. And it had been so long since I had actually looked somebody in the eye. Because in that life, you keep your eyes down to the ground. The only people you talk to are tricks. And just something, and I remember him going like this. And I thought, I went to the door, I opened the door, SWAT team's running in, I said, Greg, the police are here for you. I thought, oh, this is my freedom. Maybe, I wonder, do they have enough evidence against him? How many girls are going to testify against him, though? How many girls will lie for him? How much is this possible? Do you think maybe, possibly, he's going to go to jail for a really long time so I can have my life back? Is this my freedom? As the police officers walk up behind me, place my hands behind my back, and put the handcuffs on. They take me down to the police station, try asking me questions, but of course I don't answer. You don't talk to anybody but tricks. So I kept my head down. I didn't answer their questions. I sat in jail for 5 months in a concrete wall. 5 months, no sunshine, no outside. 5 months. You get out for a half an hour in the morning and out for a half an hour in the evening. For 5 months, I sat there wondering, where are my kids? What's going to happen? My attorney would call occasionally, say, well, no, I think they understand. You're going to get probation. And the next day she'd call and say, no, you're going to be doing about 10 years. You drove 14-year-old girls to go turn tricks. So that 5-month mark came, I stood before the judge. I took a plea deal to do 2 years in prison. Greg, he got sentenced to 10 years. My first day in prison, finally, well, they had separated the other girls involved. They separated everybody, so we hadn't communicated. And that's another thing, is the girls, we get really connected with each other. Sometimes we go back to that life just to be connected with those girls. And one of the other girls, we hadn't seen each other in so long, and she ended up getting 5 years in prison. And we got transported to the prison together, where I was scared to death. It's like, prison is where they take bad people. I'm not a bad person. I just did what Greg told me to do. And we got to the prison, we got separated, and the whole entire story, but simply when they let us out on yard, all of a sudden they screamed yard. I didn't know what to do, so I followed all the other girls. And all of a sudden there was a door leading outside, and I saw Heather way off in the distance. She was sitting in the grass. As I'm walking outside, and I'm feeling the sunshine, I'm getting closer and closer and closer to her. And I go to sit down, and I place my hands in the grass. And it is the most amazing feeling in the world. I don't remember feeling grass since I was a child. And as I sat down beside her, we were quiet for a moment as we looked up at the blue sky, barbed wire all the way around us, but that didn't matter. The sunshine was coming down on us, and our hands were in the grass, and all of a sudden we started feeling, this feeling came over us. And there's no way to describe it, and I didn't know. I could tell she was feeling it too, and I was feeling it, and we started giggling and laughing and just going, and we started to breathe, and all of a sudden we looked at each other and said, oh my God, we're free. We are finally free. So, I know my time's getting short here. So, I hope and pray that there's something that I said. I thought there was going to be some Q&A, but it's already, I'm sorry. I hope and pray that you guys can see it a little bit differently than what's happening out there. That maybe there'll be a little bit more compassion and help for even these girls that come out at 29 years old. You know, it's not always what the headlines read. So I have everybody kept telling me, Wendy, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. I have written a book. If anybody would like to buy it, I do have some back there for sale. And if you want me to autograph it, I'll autograph it. And I was like, okay. But thank you for having me today. Are there any, do you want to do like one question? Anything? Okay, yeah. Question? He ended up getting out after 8 years, because on 10-year sentence, you get out at 8 years. He then got a whole new harem of girls. After, I think, 4 to 5 years of him doing this all over again to them, he was, the girls turned on him or, you know, testified against him. And actually it was great because I got to testify too. They contacted me and said he could get life if you testified to say this is a repeat. And so he's now doing life in prison without the possibility of parole. Any other?
How are your kids? Yes.
Okay, so Latasha, she's now 29 years old. She's 29 years old. She is so wonderful. And the thing is, you have to realize this was normal. Like, she was 13 when this broke up. So daddy's girlfriends and mommy going out to work the street to make daddy money, this was totally normal to her. This was not something that was, oh, this is a bad thing. Oh, the girls are going out to work the street. Does she know what work the street was? I mean, was she young, but I'm sure she figured that out. She's doing great. She just beautiful, wonderful. She's got her head on straight. You know, she's my miracle. Gregory, he's 25. He's a full-blown alcoholic. He wants a father figure so bad, but there's such a barrier. Everything is, you know, my father was taken away from me. He actually believes his father was innocent. He's in complete denial. He's homeless in Portland, Oregon. I didn't wash my hands of him, but it's like, Gregory, you've got to get your stuff together. He became very abusive, even to me. And that's when I had to say, you know, when I started sleeping outside, because I didn't want to come in the house with him, it was like, okay, you got to go. My youngest, the one that I just had right before I was arrested, he's actually still lives with Greg's mom. Not the best situation, but I made her out to be a princess in the book because I don't want to make waves. He's 16 years old now, and he's doing good. He's doing good. So thank you for asking. Okay. Good? Huh? My life today. One thing during in prison, I realized I just want a normal life. That's all I want. I want normal. I saw these people, they'd get up, they'd go to work, and they come home, and they eat dinner, and they go to bed, and they get up the next day, and they go to work. And yeah, sometimes the bills don't get paid, but they make it, and they have weekends off. That was my dream. That was like the biggest dream I could ever have. That's all I want. Well, that's what I have. I work a 9 to 5. I come home tired. I'm like, I should have had bigger dreams. But yeah, so yeah, I'm doing good. Thank you.